very good day to everybody. I hope everybody is doing good. My name is Vasanth. I am a NEET expert and IIT-JEE to achieve their dreams. I've been doing this for more than 9 years. And today we are going to discuss, we are going to continue discussing some of the topics which comes as a part of our 10th standard class under the chapter, How Do Organisms Reproduce? So let's continue with the remaining titles. Then we'll discuss about them in detail. Okay, shall we? So just allow me for a few minutes. I hope everybody is able to see my screen. Okay. So the topics that we're going to cover in this class are going to be the sexual reproduction in detail. Okay. And then after that, it's menstrual cycle, and then reproductive health, and sexually transmitted disease or STD, and then birth control. So we are going to detail whatever things that you're going to see in this. Okay. The first thing we're going to talk about is sexual reproduction. We have seen so much in detail about this sexual reproduction process, and let's get into the next topic, which is the menstrual cycle. So menstrual cycle is called a cyclic event. It's a cyclic event, okay, that happens on a monthly basis. Happens on a monthly basis with an average period of 28 days. So what is the cycle is all about? Because in the previous classes, okay, in the previous video, we saw about the internal structure of the uterus. So uterus consisted of 3 layers, right? 3 layers. So one being the perimetrium, and the middle one being the myometrium, and the inner one being the endometrium. So in this endometrial layer, which is going to be supportive, okay, supportive for development of embryos development, and it is understandable that the embryo development doesn't happen all the time, right? It doesn't happen not all the time, okay? Because requires male gametes. So when the male gamete is not delivered, it is obvious there is no zygote. Then the endometrial layer will be shed. Okay. So this process of shedding of the endometrial layer, which was prepared to receive a fertilized egg that has developed into a blastocyst, and then which is supposed to be getting embedded into the inner uterine layer. So when this thing fails, it is obvious that the endometrial layer will not find its usage. So it will be shed. So the only passage through which it can shed is the vaginal opening of vagina. Okay. So this process of shedding of the endometrial layer in a periodical basis, okay, is known as menstruation. Okay, menstruation. So this process, we're going to read them in detail. Okay, when you talk about menstruation, okay, every woman actually undergoes this. Every woman who is healthy, okay, there are a few important things you need to a woman or a girl who is sexually reactive in nature. So they need to have good health, proper diet, mental health, to literally go through a proper menstrual cycle that happens in a periodical basis. So any of these three things becomes a question mark. Okay, menstruation will not take place. Will not take place. So this process of menstrual cycle, okay, will be starting with the women who become sexually active, and the first menstruation is called menarche. So men is monthly and arc means a initial point, okay, or initiation or starting, okay. So that's the monthly starting of the monthly cycle, okay. And then the last menstruation, last menstruation is called menopause. Stop. The stop of monthly cycles. That's called menopause. Okay. So this is the two important words that you need to talk about. So now I'll give you a fun fact or like a very interesting knowledge. I recently went through a documentary about some kind of a tribal, okay, people who live in the out of the reach. Like, let's say they have not been explored with all the technical gadgets and all this fast world and all stuff. So in those people, they are still living in the tribal world. They explore, they hunt for food, and then they go for a lot of things. Their basic living style have not changed much. So in that, four number of generations, a 20, okay, a 40, a 60, a 80-year-old woman, all of them were pregnant. Because usually a woman will stop menstruating after 45 years. So menopause will be after 45 years of age. But in that, the tribal people, because of their state of living, which took care of their good health, their proper diet, and their mental health, they have made them procure, or they have made them retain the qualities of being fertile from age 20 till 80. So they were all pregnant. So this was really fun to actually watch something that is actually believed to be natural and that is defined by taking care of three important things in this life. Okay. So now when we talk about menstrual cycle, so menstrual cycle is a periodical cycle. That's what I know. So it includes several things. It's all managed by hormones. It's all managed by hormones. So this hormonal factor, like how it is going to happen and what are the changes that the women actually undergoes during the process of menstrual cycle, we'll see all of them. Okay, shall we? So this is a representation with which it is easily understandable that how the menstruation actually takes place. Okay, this chart over here, okay, is a comparative chart that happens in the ovaries and with respect to body temperature and the pituitary hormone release, and then ovarian hormone release, and then the uterine cycle and what happens in which period at what date. Okay, and then after that, this pie chart representation will also be giving you an idea of what are the phases, what are the different phases of a menstrual cycle, and in which part of the menstrual cycle happens for how much period of time, and any kind of overlap which is available and what happens during those process, and everything will be discussed over here. The first thing that you need to note down is the 28-day cycle. So this is the 0th day and this is the 28th day. So 0th day is from when the first day starts. The first day till the first 3 to 4 days, there will be bleeding, continuous bleeding. So which means the endometrial layer gets disrupted and then it just comes out of the vaginal region. That's where the women tends to wear comforts them to wear a sanitary napkin and then gets it discarded safely. Okay. So that part is called menstrual phase. That's the first phase. So which continues for more period of time. Usually it is 3 to 4, and it is actually coexisting, like it is actually overlapping with the follicular phase. So what is follicular phase? Follicular phase is where the primordial follicle actually tends to develop from primordial follicle to primary and secondary, and then Graafian follicle, and then the Graafian follicle rupture, that is ovulation. So if you see, the follicular phase extends from this part, okay, till 14. So this is why it is a very important thing. Okay. So the 14th day is when the ovulation actually occurs. 14th day is when the ovulation actually. What is ovulation? Ovulation is release of ovum. So this is comparative to the endometrial layer and the ovarian cycle. So once after the ovum is released, you could see that the body has become metabolically so active, and it actually undergoes the process called proliferation. Okay, proliferation. So after this ovulation part, it literally thickens. Okay, the uterus lining, you can see in the luteal phase. Okay, this is the ovulation phase. So, and then in this phase, the luteal phase, the uterine wall literally thickens. So this thickening will be happening to receive the egg, which was already released from the ovary during the process of ovulation. Okay, and this ovum is going to be fused, provided if the sperms are going to be there. And then upon fertilization, it should be ready. It should be ready. The endometrium should be ready to receive the fertilized egg to get them implanted in the uterine wall. Okay, that's the most important fun fact that you need to know about. And so for that, the uterine wall is thickening. So that you can see over here. The uterus lining continues to thicken. Okay, if ovum remains unfertilized, uterus contract in readiness to shed the build-up layer. If not, it will acquire, or it will actually receive the blastocyst and then form the embryo, okay, and then embed them. So in this place, the body will be metabolically active. So that's why you can see the body temperature raises from 36 to 37 degrees centigrade, where there will be high proliferation rate. So the more tissue multiplication actually takes place. At this point, at the point of ovulation, both the LH and the FSH. LH is luteinizing hormone, okay, which is the anterior pituitary hormone, and follicle stimulating hormone is also the anterior pituitary hormone. So luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone helps in production of the one follicle stimulating hormone results in the stimulation of follicles development, and luteinizing hormone helps in the development and synthesis of the sex hormones. So after that, if you see in this case, the ovarian hormone, which is the estrogen, okay, which will be like heightened during the process of follicular phase. And when the ovulation takes place, the estrogen actually goes down, and then it is overtaken by the progesterone, by the presence of corpus luteum, which will be producing progesterone. You get the point? So if the progesterone, after the successive fertilization and the implantation takes place, the corpus luteum actually stays. Okay, it persists. So if the fertilization doesn't take place and the implantation doesn't take place, corpus luteum will get degraded to forms corpus albicans, and because of which the progesterone will be going down, and the estrogen will take over again, and then again it leads to the next cycle. So this is the complete cycle. The cycle is of 4 different steps. One is the menstrual cycle, where the bleeding happens, and then the follicular phase, which is going to cause the follicular development, or from the primordial follicle till the ovum formation, the Graafian follicle liberation, the ovarian follicle. And then the ovulation phase is where the ovum will be completely developed, and it will be ready to get liberated out of the egg, or out of the Graafian follicle. So ovulation is where the liberation of ovum takes place out of the ovum. And after that comes the luteal phase, where the uterine wall thickens to receive the fertilized egg into it. So that's the next important step. So if the fertilization doesn't take place and the purpose of the uterine wall thickening is not fulfilled, it is obvious after 28 days after realization, it will start undergoing disruption again. That's the menstrual phase. So again, it starts. So next cycle starts. So some might be asking, sir, from which part, how many ovum is produced from the ovary? Because we have two ovaries. If two ovums are produced, do we, why, if two ovums are produced, like why we are not getting twins all the time? That's not the case. So one side the ovary actually produces once, and after that the second part, and then after that the other one again, third, and then again it will be fourth over here. So like it actually in alternative times. So sometimes when the hormones actually, the FSH actually produced will be like more in quantity, more than one primordial follicle actually gets produced, and they will produce two eggs. These two eggs upon fertilization will give two zygote. So two zygote will become non-identical twins. Non-identical twins. So this is the process. So now it can come from one of the ovary, or it can come from both the ovary working. So that is all possible. Okay. Now, so what is the process of producing identical twins? So when one egg produced will be fused with one sperm. Okay, this sperm will be like fusing and then forms zygote, right? So when the zygote undergoes division, okay, usually it undergoes incomplete division. Okay, but at certain cases it undergoes complete division. Both of them differentiates to form two zygotes. So they both tend to develop into new individuals with 2n zygote. Okay, they are going to become the two new individuals. Okay, so these two individuals are going to carry same genetic material. So it's obvious that they will be identical. Okay, this is the menstrual cycle and how non-identical twins and identical twins could be formed. So I hope you have understood menstrual cycle in detail. So there are myths. Okay, so some say like, sir, usually the women who actually like undergoing menstrual cycle, they are not allowed to go inside the kitchen and what is the process and stuff. It's actually not superficial, or it is not superstitious and stuff like that. It is just science. How? Because see, during the olden days we didn't have proper sanitation. So in those cases we didn't want the unhygienic nature, okay, to be that can allow spreading of disease, and then in the kitchen and everything. So that's where they are not allowed. Okay, so that's why we are not allowed. That's why women are not allowed during the menstrual cycle, into kitchen and the workshopping place. So where cleanliness is actually more preferred. So now we have a very good sanitation available. So now I don't think it is necessary to be strictly followed. But for some people who are very auspicious and authentic and stuff like that, they are very strictly following rituals and stuff, then they will be following it. Okay. But in general perspective, it is not required because we are in the modern age with very proper sanitation. That is possibly that we can have. Okay. So now when we talk about reproductive health, next thing that we want to talk about is reproductive health. What is reproductive health? We have already studied about what is health in Why Do We Follow chapter in 9th standard. So what did you study over there? We studied that every organism should have three important things. One is physical, mental, and social well-being. So now, when we talk about in a general perspective, it relates to health. Okay. Now, when it is spoken about the reproductive part, okay, the process of reproduction and the reproductive system, then it is called, then it becomes evolved into reproductive. That's why reproductive health have evolved. Now, there are lots of things that you need to know. First, a woman or a girl, okay, she should not be engaging into reproductive activities just because she has attained sexual maturity, because they will be having the ability, but they will not know how to manage it. They will not know how to manage it. They have the properties to conceive a child, but will they be ready both physically and mentally? Definitely not. Definitely not. And it's obvious that the society will be creating a society will be abusing the child, with a bad image, in such a young age you have conceived a child, you don't know how to take care of the child, both physically you're not fit to bear a child, and mentally you don't know how to bring up a child and stuff, that things happen. So that thing should be avoided. A person who is not reproductively healthy, he should literally consult a doctor and then get him checked, so that what could he possibly do, how can he avoid getting this illness, disease condition, so that it doesn't have to be spread all over the world. So all these things have to be taken care. Okay, so these are the most important points when it comes to reproductive health, because being a young parent who are ready to conceive a child, who can possibly conceive a child, but they are not completely ready to conceive a child and maintain the life, okay, in an organized manner. So they should be taught how they should not fasten seat belts and then enter into this process. Okay, that's one of the most important about reproductive health. So next thing that you want to talk about is sexually transmitted diseases. Sexually transmitted diseases are also known as venereal disease, and then STDs, and a lot of names. Okay, so these STDs are sexually transmitted infections. These are infectious diseases which could be transmitted from one person to another person during the process of sexual action. Okay, so during different types of sexual actions, one through the vaginal region, one through the oral region, other to the anal region. So a sexual intercourse could be of any way. Okay, through this process of sexual intercourse or copulation on different means, they tend to spread what they have to the another person whom they are engaging with in the process of sexual intercourse. Okay, so that process is called sexually transmitted diseases. Okay, so when you talk about sexually transmitted diseases, it's also called venereal disease or reproductive tract inflammation, called RTI, not the Right to Information Act. This is called reproductive tract infection. Okay, so when you talk about infection is caused mainly by infectious agents. So when you talk about infectious agents, they are either bacteria or fungal, protozoan or virus. There are many types. So when you talk about bacteria, we have so few examples. Gonorrhea, which is actually a bacterial disease, and the scientific name of gonorrhea, okay, the bacteria. And the syphilis is another disease which is also caused by, treponema and pallidum, which is actually also a bacterium. And chlamydiasis, which is also a bacterial disease which is caused by Chlamydia trachomatis. And then chancroid, which is also called which is caused by Haemophilus ducrei, which is all bacterial diseases, which is going to be transmitted from one person to another person in the process of sexual intercourse. Another one is protozoan, which is very famous, is called trichomoniasis. It is actually transferred from one person to another person with the protozoan named Trichomonas vaginalis. That's actually found in the female reproductive tract, so that's why it is called. It is exclusively named as Trichomonas vaginalis. Okay, and virus. There are a lot of viruses which actually puts a lot of people's life in misery, where there is no cure. Some of them have cure, some of them have vaccination, some of them have nothing. Okay, after you acquire this disease, you cannot do anything about it. So few diseases include HPV, which is called human papilloma virus, or genital herpes. So it's caused by HSV1 and HSV2 type. So usually the HSV2 is very common. And after that is very common, which is caused by HIV, human immunodeficiency virus, which causes AIDS, acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. So the reason why it is called syndrome, because syndrome is group of bunch of deficiencies. Because the HIV, human immunodeficiency virus, it affects, in the name itself, it states that it affects the immune system and stops them from working. So when the immune system is stopped from working, it is obvious that the person will not be able to like get things done, right? It is obvious that the person cannot be able to get things done. So it's from the immune system. So the immune system is completely gone down. So when the immune system is gone down, it is obvious that the person cannot do anything about it. Okay, anything about it. So then, to defend their body from other infectious agents. So when their body is infected by any other infectious agents, their immune system is already down, it's dead, and it cannot do anything about it. So that's what is so cruel about AIDS. The person's immune system is collapsed, so it is obvious that they will not be able to get themselves protected from the other disease conditions. Okay, even from a bacterial infection, which could possibly be nothing when we have our immune systems up and running. But when we have infection caused by HIV, and when the person is affected by acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, so you will not have a chance to stand the battle. That's why you need all the medications to help you. So you need vaccinations all the time. You need pre-courses all the time, so today save yourself from getting the disease. Okay, so all of these diseases should be avoided. Okay, should be like to actually not to get all these diseases. You should actually have protected intercourse. Okay, only with one particular person. You should try to choose only one person to be your mate, and then you should avoid unprotected sex with infected people. And then because most of some of the diseases are transferred through bodily fluids, so exchange of blood from infected person could also be a cause. And some causes, even a mother who's actually holds this disease, could transfer the disease to the offspring, okay, whom she is pregnant with. And then the person one whose blood is donated, who has the disease condition, they could also transfer. All these things mainly goes to HIV that causes AIDS. So all the other bacterial and then protozoal and viral diseases have few common, most of the common symptoms. Usually it is itching, and they have burning sensation, and then in the process of the itching, you'll be scratching a lot, and there's a lot of irritation, and then it will form boils over there, and then that lesions will be discharging fluid, and then there'll be mild pain, and then because of the immunogenic responses in that region, it causes swelling. So all these are the major symptoms that is seen in most of the sexually transmitted diseases, or the venereal disease, or the reproductive tract inflammation. So these are the things that you need to know about when it comes to sexually transmitted diseases. So next one that we want to talk about is birth control. So birth control is when when two people are trying to have physical relationship, but they are not ready to take the responsibility to bear a child. So in these cases, they should try to avoid having kids. So how do they do that? They just have to use any of these birth control devices. So these birth control devices will avoid unnecessary conceiving of child. So there are different ways or different types of contraceptive methods, and they are all mentioned over here. Usually it is grouped under mechanical, IUDs, hormonal, chemical, and reversible sterilization or surgical method. Usually, okay, let's see all of them in detail. Okay. So now when we talk about mechanical barrier method, it includes condom. Condom is like a latex membranous layer that is used to cover the muscular penis, that will not allow the bodily fluid of a male to enter into the female, nor have the bodily fluid of a female having contact with the male. So that literally acts as a barrier. The cervical cap is almost same thing, which will not allow the entry of the male reproductive secondary reproductive organ, it will not allow the the semen on the fluid to enter into the reproductive structure completely. So that actually is where. And diaphragm creates a barrier which will not allow the fluid to enter again. The cervical cap is fixed on the cervix of the uterus, and diaphragm literally covers the region of the vagina. Okay, so these are different types, and you can see over here condom, female condom, and then diaphragm or cap, and intrauterine devices or IUCD or IUD. So this is IUD over here. So this is another type of IUD over here. So the basic type of IUD is where it will direct or stop the sperm from moving towards the fallopian tube. So it is fixed on the uterus, in the uterus in between. It's done by medical personnel only. And the second type would be having copper bound on the T structure. So what is the purpose of copper over here? The copper literally reduces the mobility. So the copper reduces mobility. Mobility of what? Mobility of sperm. So in that way, the sperm cannot move into the fallopian tube, and there is no possibility of fertilization, and they will not be able to conceive. And the hormonal, IUDs will actually alter the complete hormonal manifesto or orchestrated reaction, and that will disturb the whole process. And hormonal method of contraception, which also involve taking in chemical substances, okay, oral pills, implants, and morning after pills, all of them are like chemical methods of contraceptions. All these are hormonal methods of contraceptions, which will be like altering the hormonal balance that is required for the women to maintain the uterine layer, and then and all the other process. So when they are being disturbed by the hormonal method of contraception, it is obvious that conceiving a child and implantation cannot happen. Okay, implant is any chemical substance that is actually implanted subdermally. Subdermal means under the skin, that is going to deliver some quantity of hormones at a regular basis, which will keep them from conceiving a child. Okay, and morning after pills are chemical substances which are going to take after copulation in the night. Okay, in the next day, like in the morning, that you're supposed to take it, so that it will really alter the complete hormonal status in the body, and that will avoid the implantation process. And chemical method of contraception, there are different types of chemical where you can apply it in the vaginal region. Okay, even apply it on the penis, muscular penis. That will act as a spermicide. What is a spermicide? Spermicides are chemical substances that kills the sperms. So when the chemical substances are applied on inside the vagina, so when the sperm is ejaculated into the female reproductive tract, it is obvious the sperms in the semen will be killed because of the action of the chemical substances. Okay, so this is another way. The last one would be the reversible surgical method. The surgical method, so usually you are always told that it is an irreversible. So it is reversible, but it is a very hard and tedious process, and it is having a very less success rate. So that's what you should remember over here. So when you talk about the reversible sterilization, you have vasectomy and tubectomy. So here we have already studied the muscular, the penis actually has testis. The male reproductive organ actually has testis, and testis, the vast difference actually is a tubule that connects the process between testis and the urethra. That is through which the sperms are traveling into the urethra. Okay, so when we cut them off, you can see them over here. Okay, I'll zoom it up for you. Okay, see this here. Usually it is cut, so the tube is cut into two pieces, and then they are tied on both ends. Why they are tying on both ends? So even accidental healing, it should not be connecting together, and it should not form a network. So it should not be connected again. That's why it is tied off. And then the second part is tubectomy. Tubectomy is they cutting down the fallopian tube, and then they are being tied again. So which will not allow the sperm to move through the cervix into the uterus and then out into the fallopian tube. And there will be no meeting of sperm and wombs. That will also avoid the process of fertilization. So there is no conceiving child. So in this vasectomy, the sperm will not travel from the epididymis into the vast difference. So it is obvious then, if no matter how many times the male actually undergoes copulation during the sexual intercourse, only the semen, the secretions of this seminal vesicle, bulbourethral gland, and then the corpus gland, all the prostate glands. So these secretions will only be flowing, and it will not be having any kind of a sperm count. So these are the surgical methods. These are the surgical methods that we need to know about. So I hope you all understood what are the birth controls. So we also have calendar rhythm method and coitus interruptus. These two are mainly natural method. So these two, during the process of copulation, we can actually there's another method called withdrawal method, where we can withdraw the muscular penis out of the female reproductive tract to avoid deposition of male gamete into the female reproductive tract. That's called retrieval or retractive method. Okay? And then coitus interruptus is where during the process of ejaculation, or during the process of ejaculation, we stop. Okay? And then we take it out, and then we take the muscular penis out of the vagina, and then ejaculate outside. So the next one is calendar rhythm method. We know the process of ovulation. So only when the ovum is available, it is possible for fertilization, right? So when we actually know the dates and calculate them, and not have physical relationship or undergo copulation and coitus during those time of ovulation, like 2 to 3 days before ovulation, 2 to 3 days after ovulation, will make it functional as a perfect birth control, instead of using any kind of contraceptive methods, other contraceptive methods. So these are the perfect ways to actually get the birth control up and. So I hope you have understood everything about birth control. So let's see some questions which is usually asked. So can STDs be cured? So sexually transmitted diseases, bacterial diseases actually have some cures, and fungal also have some cures, and protozoans also have some cures. But when it comes to virals, okay, so it will not be cured, but some of them have vaccination, and that cannot be working only when you already have the disease. Especially hepatitis B, that's a very good. Okay. Now, I understand that you have understood the process. Okay. Now, what are the 4 stages of menstrual cycle? We have already seen them. It is just the menstrual phase during the process where the menstruation the blood flow actually takes place. The follicular phase where the primordial follicle develop into the ovum, and then ovulation phase is when the ovulation of the ovum, the left follicle bursts out and the egg actually comes out. And luteal phase is when the thickening of the layer, thickening of the uterine wall takes place to accommodate the fertilized egg, provided if there was a deposition of sperm on a timely basis. Okay, so these are the doubts that is usually asked and discussed about. And when you talk about the other things, there are lots of other reproductive questions which you can all post them in our website so that we can answer them very nicely. And thank you so much for your time. I hope everybody have learned something good and I was able to help. So please keep in your mind, we have exclusively, people who constantly work on your doubts so that it could be clarified on a periodical basis properly. So please post your doubts and then feel free to approach us and at any cost. And then we are always there to help. We are always there to help. So when you instead of just seeing the videos, please try to subscribe for Ask IITian classes and try to attend live classes. You will learn more. Okay, you will learn more. I can guarantee you that personally. So thank you so much, guys, for your time and have a nice day, guys.